when we, I was talking about standpoint there this morning. Both of us talked about some of the damage that's done in terms of it being misinterpreted and people taking it on as a personal branding kind of exercise, rather than, yeah. So I think, I don't know, let's take care of our pronouns first, because that's the protocol. Yeah, I'm not even going to say who I am yet, we'll get into that. But, you know, all of us think about, think about who you are. And what it takes for all of us, and all of us have been in ceremony, like together in our own country, in our own way, one family, but then ceremony between different groups, and lots of people together. People know how you move in and out of circles. So I think a way, like before we start, you know, we make sure everything's clear and people are coming in a way where everyone can connect, you know, our bellies, feelings, mind, together in a way that's steady for everyone. So anybody here ever got nervous doing public speaking before? Like I can remember in my 20s getting nervous. Yeah, I don't anymore, and if I ever feel it, then I know I'm speaking from the wrong thing. I know I'm speaking from myself. Because you're not nervous, actually scared of standing up in front of people and talking. You're separating yourself and you're catching a knock. You're getting a knock in yourself from your trauma. You know, and yeah, best way to move through trauma, you know, is to move in and out of those circles that Phil shows. You know, those inside and outside circles. Yeah, best way to do that is with our pronouns. I can't do gender pronouns because there aren't any gender pronouns in my language, my family language, with mom. But we can do our first person pronouns. So like, I guess everybody in their language, no matter where it's from, just say I. Just say I in any language. It doesn't have to be loud. And then double it up. Double it up, which will separate you. So like nine. Like say it twice. That's when you're looking for a fight. So you might be resisting that because you feel your heart beating faster. Then I guess look around the room, and so the next one coming out plural. But if you've got in your language a plural, that's just for two people, use that. Or if you've just got a universal, us, like in English, then I guess you use that. But if you've got a special one that's just like us too, which a lot of us do, I don't know for Rafa how you got that. Yeah. So I guess look around the room and do a few of them, and just say it when you spot someone. Or even close your eyes, think about it. You spot someone, just say your word for us. Us when you're talking about a pair. I know for some. I was hoping to hear something there in language. All right. Think about like the little groups that are formed, like so maybe our language group or regional group, like you might be Maoris Kuris, you might be from Aotearoa, Turtle Island, you might be like, think about your gender groups, age status things, you might think about your sexuality, you know, you might think about, you know, particular affinity groups and things like this, and then cultural groups, like some people might have ceremony together. So I guess think about them and then use your word for us. Like, thinking around through the room to the different like exclusive groups you're in. And I don't know, do you have a word for us in your language that is just like us only? Like us and my barbecue, but not them. Like, yeah, alright. So if you got one of them pronouns, yeah, just say that to yourself. With everyone you can think of in the room. You know, there might be lots of, if you think in circles, there'll be lots of circles in here, people you can sit with, you know, for your own thing. Some of those circles might overlap. But then some of them might be, their relationship might be an avoidance relationship, but others as well. And I guess last one, let's think about, anybody got a special particular pronoun for us all? Yeah, like for everybody, not excluding anybody. I guess think about that. Yeah, start thinking about everybody all together. Think about that word. Then we might come in just 8 claps, and then 2 and 2 and 1. Be like, I don't know. For me, I find that's a good one to settle people in. Does anybody feel like that rhythm is not going to work here, or just solve the country or the mighty country? So it'll just be like a so if that doesn't feel anybody or fit for anybody, either let me know, or if anybody got a better one, want to clap for us where we can clap along, like a little rhythm. So there's something about when everyone claps together that like puts us in one mind. In a kind of household thing. What you feeling? Sorry.
No. You were saying 8, 2, 2, 1, yeah?
Yeah, but only that's
I'm
what
ready to
I'm
ready to go.
sideways.
I'm ready to go.
But looking at me sideways over here, so I'm not sure now. Yeah, he's like, anybody like that's so we might slide inside, outside circle from there. So if we go in nump, all of us will clap from my us only over here, my nump. So you must might join in with my nump to be like overlapping, coming outside the circle with all of us, sharing that. And then if someone else has got like a rhythm they want to share from their culture, from their way, where we can all clap that one out, then we can try that one, and anybody can do that. And I don't care if that takes up my whole talk, because that'll probably get it across better than anything else. You know, and get us out of that nay, if anybody's feeling that, because when we feel that flutter in our chest, and I look around and I know when people are feeling that, and then I empathize and I start feeling it. You know, that means we're in our trauma individually and not our knowledge collectively. You know, and we can actually only deal with that trauma collectively. You can only be held like that, not be held as one thing. So anyway, so 8 and 2 and 2 and 1. All right, ready? Hup. Anybody got another one?
Butterfly attack.
Butterfly attack.
Butterfly attack. You know the butterfly attack? Oh, my moth, deadly moth, sorry.
All right, butterfly attack.
When you're feeling that, you tap you gentle into your, so I'm all kitted up. Just rest your thumbs in that bit there and tap your fingers on your collarbone. And breathe like slow, like breathe in and then hold and breathe out for longer. And that's a
introductions in most of our cultures are things that take place over many days. And it's not just something that happens at the start. You know, it keeps going all the way through. Different levels and paces for different people. Because it's woven in with the knowledge, it's not separate from the knowledge. Always. Like, you know, how the intros go, that's part of the business. All right. All right. So, land up Kawapa, Huluwai Natro, Spot, Pig Natro Martino, Nil Kawapa, Nan Kawapa, Pug Natro, Kawapa, Huluwai, Road, Spot, Tom Pachunen, Tom Pachum, Chabra, Kerka, Akul Natro, Natro, Yonkro, Akul, Agnatro, and Moving Stone, Mulmu, Mulmu, and we could cut feet and out big one now. Don, night with me. Yeah, Cutway, Cutway not from Dimata, Dumma. So that one, I think, I think I'd speak from that today. From this season, it's not your burning season here, Umbangi. It is? Ah, sweet. All right, so I feel that, so I'll talk from that pathway, mother side bottom first, if I talk about it. But I did introduce myself, Kawapa, and that's my dad, me, my sons, my big brother, Steve, we come together, us two, my dad, us two, my sons, but Katway, I go with mother side totem. But those totems shift in different seasons, of course. So later in the year, when things get warmer, it'll be like Yunkaporta to that's Stormbird and a bull shark, first shark. But now Timid and the sparrowhawk and the bushfire, the bluebird. Because they're a pair. They're a pair in our totemic system. But the totemic system, that's like a system of signals. That's really important. We see these systems. Everyone talks about Indigenous knowledge systems, but me, Steph, a lot of other people, we talk about Indigenous systems knowledge, so our understanding of how systems work, because this helps us actually understand all the other systems in the world that are mismatched. So our totemic system, it's got to be lined up as a signal system with the land signal system. So that's why, I shifted my mother's side totems when I'm thinking about this burning season here, and I think about how I connect here. This East Coast pigeon. Sissy, I know your voice and how you talk from several people, but mostly who sounds like you. Charles Marshall, I work with a lot here. So we're working through that Indigenous Knowledge Systems Lab at Deakin. She's employed there for a long time, but now she's branched off to make a sister lab here. The marine matriarchs, and we've got labs all around the world. We've got them at Turtle Island, and so we go around. So as I work through how's this work with relations working, and what are those signals that'll put me on the right yards for the rest of the time I'm here. Think through those relations. So for me, it's through that, because I think that your language and how you talk about people. As a woman, we got this, all of us are Creole, Kriolised that we have. And I guess one of the really big things I want to put to you in how we do Tranknowledging in a kind of pluriverse of cultures, and how we maintain our governance and our patterns that are in the languages of our land, which are similar. Just looking at those pronouns, we know that in a lot of our Indigenous languages we've got more than what there is just in English. Because English is a trade Creole, and it's got to be pretty simple, although it's got to be clunky, because there's lots of different rules and regularities, you know, because it's a Creole of lots of different languages. Anyway, yeah, we know that we've got, we have those things really strong in how we speak English. And we talk about being colonized, you know, like it's something that's done to us, where we have no agency. We look at our things that are stolen, and that are in museums all around the world, and we feel that theft and that crime. But we also need to think about the power and agency of our old people, and of our living languages, and of our living lands, even if they're sick and they're changing. We need to think about the power and the sentience of these things. You know, we all know this as Indigenous people, and most non-Indigenous people who've encountered the new materialism or some shit like that, I can't remember. We understand the sentience of things, you know, that there's no dead things. And we understand the sentience of systems. We understand objects as entities that have mind. So all of our things that are in these museums around the world, do you want to strip away their agency and their power by just seeing them as broken and stolen things? You know, is it also important to look at these things as having agency and doing some work? Are our languages poisoned? Do we follow that eugenics notion of someone's coming in here and poisoning the blood of our nation? You hear Donald Trump saying a lot of this stuff right now. We don't think about that. We don't think about our languages being poisoned. You know, some of us are ashamed we're broken, but I don't think anyone in these generations now are ashamed of that. Like, we're proud of our pigeons and our Creoles. This is living language that has agency. So yes, colonized, you know, victims of, etc. But also, what are we doing back? Like, are we colonizing the colonizers? You know, not quite. But what we are doing with our living languages, lands, and our objects that they hold, ancestral, ceremonial, we're creolizing them. We are creolizing the West and the global dominant systems. You know, even our concepts of sharing and things like this, right from the start. They met us before they had their enlightenment. They met us before they had their rights of man and human rights. These are things that we creolized into them. But it's only halfway, because they still want us to be able to keep their hierarchies, you know. The rich need always to be able to keep all their shit and make sure that that gives them power over others. Yeah. So anyway, so we're not quite there yet because of that. But we are creolizing them. Our old people are creolizing, you know, all these international systems. It's happening all the time. I know African people who rejoice about their ancestors' masks and sculptures and objects, really sacred ceremonies, being in museums, you know, in Britain. They rejoice about that because they go like, those things are there and it's working on them in their dreams. It's working on all those people and it's moving them slow towards things. A rainbow snake moves slow. If you don't call a rainbow snake, there's always a serpent that has law in the land. And there's other things that hold law in the land. These things move slow. Yeah. Anyway, can I get a ETA on the time?
Oh, you got plenty of time.
Yeah, because we might have to move this to the beach later if I don't get through this. You know, so I could introduce myself all day around the us twos, the us onlys. Yeah, so our Pledge clan is a bit of an us only. you know, for me, this is what I belong to under our law. I also have previous affiliation with what we call lost mobs, which old mate, like from yesterday, you know, he's lost mobs. And there are, and I don't know, nobody told me yet. I think that that's a whole, you know, way that people can introduce themselves if they don't, you know, if they don't, you know, get brought in under the law, you know, somewhere, if they got lost mob affiliations. That's not just people who haven't discovered their ancestry yet, it's also people who have been banished out from some communities, don't get back in. It's also people who find out that somewhere in their line there's been some incest or something like that, or sometimes the product of you know, sexual violence that people want to, you know, they don't want that ever coming through again in the story. But in some ways, lines get broken or lines get messed up, and so people can't claim them anymore under our laws. I know that seems easy under the, you know, there's a three-part definition, and you know, there's a lot of things like that that get put on people if they want to access benefits. But Ros, I mean, you've probably been around long enough now to know that there aren't any, and that they all suck, and that they're all quite a bit less. They don't bring us up to parity.
It's not that other people.
It's yeah, exactly. So you know, if people are after benefits, then good luck. But yeah, lost mob is a way most of us know how to, you know, how to position somebody, and then how to talk to them and talk quiet to them to understand who they are. Yeah, so I've got lots of lost mob affiliations, and my wife was Barada, and got that connection here into this crowd. You know, she's got lost mob ties as well. So my little son Diver, he was named after great-great-grandfather who was stolen up at Mitchell River, Yunkaporta. So that line is lost mob because nobody knows exactly, like even though it's taken there, it could be with Lulu, but you can't just assume because somebody was there that that's who they were. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I don't know, sex is a very vibrant and chaotic and uncontrollable and untraceable, untrackable thing. It's an exuberant thing, and it's everywhere. It's in all our signals and our histories, and it goes all through nature. And you know, it's when the system's in balance, it's always an us-all thing. You know, there's never just a eel mating season or just a bowerbird mating season. So you know the bowerbirds, I call the, you know the bowerbirds that make that little bower and they collect all their treasures to attract the ladies, and then the ladies come in and the ladies choose, like the one, yeah, I like that one down there. This is a bird who's got his shit together. However, has he put too much effort into the work, but hasn't balanced it with self-care? Let's check out his feathers. No, he's a bit straggly. He's been just picking up treasures and hasn't looked after. I'm not that. I'm not going to pick someone else who's got good grooming and a nice house and a good bank account. And so she picks him. Off they go. But that's not happening right now. But does that mean they're not participating in any kind of mating season? You know, I mean, they're flocking. You know, they go a bit solitary when they're doing the mating thing, but they're participating in the mating of a lot of different things over the last couple of months in different places. You've got that flocking that they're doing. There's murmuration, there's dance, and that triggers things. Because bowerbirds are beautiful when they flock. You know, so there's things that are triggered. Oh my God, you know that the wombats start moving around in the daytime because they need that bit of warmth, you know. They need that heat because, like usually they're out at night, but they're cold now, so they're moving around. And of course they leave their cuck up on a rock, and that dries differently because it's daytime, puts a different smell because it's a different diet, and that smell triggers about 1 million different things. Turkeys, swans, eagles, they see those bowerbirds flocking, and then they start doing different things. You know? And the different things they do, are affecting the mating of, everything else. Like the things that are mating right here. And they're all in one dance together. Even if they're not mating, the species that are mating, like the bigger birds, the turkeys and the eagles and the... Oh, look, there's lots of little swan chicks right now all through Melbourne. Swans all having their chicks. But I don't know, there's a European state of mind that says that only happens in spring. Birds have babies in spring. Not like all the way through. Yeah, they do, all the way through the year. Things are triggered, and people have talked about this yellow flowers, acacia flowers, and what that brings into the mullet run. But then the sharks come in, but we'll talk about this one. There are these systems of signals, and these are supposed to move us. We're supposed to be responsive to these things. It's supposed to trigger behaviors in us of what we do. And when we're meeting, mating, pairing up, having romances, having fights, having squabbles. Susie, I thought you were going over there to flog Uncle before. I was like, oh, I know it's going to happen. But fights are pretty normal too, and that's okay. These things happen. All these signals, in the system, our governance follows this, and our language is the language of the land, all of us, of country, or Kinevin, as the Welsh call it. They got their own word for that. We spent a fair bit of time. The Welsh, we in Chelsea spend a lot of time talking to Welsh law keepers, Irish ones too, because, I don't know, that's not really you there. There is this kind of pair, that's mother-child, but you're never just one thing. So you always, nai also always implies nai, ... So nai what? Nai belonging to him, nai belonging to them. It's yourself in relation. But there you are, what this is kind of a boundary. Alright? And our border work as Indigenous people all around the world, it's a fluid thing, and it's about access and making kin, making good relationships. So we have these pairs, and I'm talking from my pathway, mother side totem, mother relations there. When I'm speaking, I'm thinking from that today, which makes me think different things. So you have this nai as a self in relation, and then you have this us two. But then you're connected to other us twos. So my wife I'm connected to there, but then her mum and dad, how they're connected. There are all these things. And what's important is those relational spaces in between. That's where all the knowledge is. All the knowledge. It doesn't sit in your head. Same way all your trauma doesn't just sit with you. That sits in the relational space in between. With all your different relations. You got lots of people in here. There's lots of eyes. Anyway, so you connect with them this way. So we've got this name, then we've got this now, us two, and then we've got this kind of this us only. That might be your family or your clan. It might also be your tribe, how you look at it like that. It depends how much you scale out. And when I say scale out, it scales out like this. Because you're also in relation to other groups who are doing the same thing. There's I's and us twos, and us onlys, and us alls. Just like this in other rooms and other places, we're all connected. And it keeps coming out. Now, what does this form of? Here. So these two different groups that are separate, they just form one of these. These two groups are an us too. So you might think about another tribe that's nearby, or even far away that you're in relation with, and that's an us too. And there's another one, and you can draw this if you like, just for fun. If you get bored, it just keeps going. It keeps going out. Because this one, this one's your regional mob. You might have that, that out through that Wangari law, right out to Sunrise Sunset Green law, we travel, for these big embassies. You travel right out for August embassy. They can go right out overseas. It has been happening here forever, up through the Silk Road, for longer than the Silk Road was even there. We're trading up through Asia. We have those old stories. And we have those Asian species here as well that were naturalized over thousands of years until they became native here. We have all the stories as well. We have story, my artful thing, sacred sighting, Greece site. That I mentioned before, that one's got a connection to story. China through whirlwind and whirlpool, and the rainbow snake and the stone that moves. We got food dogs there in our stories. Like, the little Chinese lions, we got them in that story. These things connect out through New Guinea. I've got Indonesian words in my traditional language, like ultimate. I'm just going to say ultimate, that'll be the only one because of the dolphins here. So I'm calling out for those marine matriarchs. Ultimate. That's an old Indonesian word, traded for us. So we had this embassy set up, and you're in embassy all the time. Your border, the boundary around you, that's solid because you're a sovereign in yourself, but you're nothing if you're always going there. What defines you is what you let out and what you let in, and how prepared you are to make kin and increase relations, and make relations and knowledge stronger in that relational space with others. And you scale that out from your individual sovereignty and family sovereignty, through your parent-child pairs, and out to your marriage kin pairs, and onward. And there's cycles that happen in that through your great-grandparents, coming back around to take on that children's status again in the moieties. But the clan system is in the relations, and it's in that shifting border work. Your clan and tribal systems, they don't always fit with the moiety, sub-moiety kind of kinship algorithm that anthropologists do. They don't fit with that any better than the cycle of the moon fits with the cycle of the sun. They're kind of out of step, and they're that way for a reason. They let us move. They give us the freedom to say no, which is the center of our culture. Is everybody's free to say, nah, fuck it, I'm not doing that. Nobody boss below me. This comes through in our Creole. I don't know how many anarchists have been formed, like white anarchists in the world have been created from our Creoles. We made anarchists. We invented that shit. You read all about what happened in Catalonia in Spain. That came from encounters with peoples from all our indigenous peoples around. Here we made this world. We made anything that's about freedom here, and those struggles and the civil rights and everything else happen in the world. We are the ones that brought that to those people who lost themselves temporarily from Europe and those rich people. Yeah, they wouldn't have human rights except for out of our creolization of them. So I'm not interested in their colonization of us. I'm only interested in creolizing them and changing the systems of the world. But you can only do that by finding points where you can align the signals in a real-time feedback loop response, somewhere between the land, /language/culture, /bioculture, and their economy. Because you've got to hit them in that wallet, and that's where Uncle, his work's really important. We all need to yarn more with that. There's no difference between that trade, and the culture and that ecology when you're in embassy together. Steph's going to talk about embassy a bit more after, but you have to line them up. There has to be some feedback response. People have to be able to go, shit, it's May already and the black cockers didn't fly over. The eel bombs are going to crash. Like, sell. Like, there has to be something, in Wall Street that's responding. Especially they trade water futures there. So there should be something about the forests that hold an annual reserve if they go with enough root system. That increases the water allocation, that people will recognise the swifts aren't flying close to the ground. Sell. You know, the bonds will be worth less. The futures, the water futures will be worth less. Because most of our fresh water in Australia is owned by people on Wall Street, which they trade as derivatives, gambling on future outcomes. Yeah, they make the money from scarcity. So the less water there is, the more value it has. So probably the other way around. Like, if there's no swifts around, buy. Because there'll be less water and be worth more. They're so weird. Anyway, these are the things. So if you imagine that, this is how our governance scales. The economic system of the globe right now, it doesn't scale. Scale is about efficiency every time a system doubles. So a mouse only lives so long, because he has the same amount of heartbeats as a rat over his life, but he hasn't a lot faster, you know? You scale him up, double it for a rat, that rat will live more than twice as long, because there's an extra additional 25% efficiency metabolically for that little system. It's the same as everything else. But then there's a maximum power principle, a limit to scale, which you'll see in the whales that are currently coming in this whale season here right now. They're as big as they can get, and as things can get for their context. They can't get any bigger than that. All our stories from 10,000 years ago is about us downsizing megafauna. You know, hunting that giant codfish, hunting that giant dingo, hunting those giant animals, and knocking them down to size. You know, a bit of antitrust dreaming. Bringing down those big corporate bodies down to size. That's all them stories there. We downsize those things. Yeah. So there's a maximum power principle. Scale is you only gain efficiency for a while, and eventually end up with, even in a system like land, the bush, and even a political system, you run into Metcalfe's law that Steph looks into of network saturation, where your whole network falls apart. Okay, but our networks are based on this pattern here. And this, so that's this big one here, that's just one again now. And that can scale inwards that way too, in all our relations in our lives. It scales in and out infinitely. So this one keeps going out this way. And then it keeps going over the back of this board here, over the dark side of the well. This one can scale infinitely. In our way, we can scale systems by complexity. And we can do it infinitely as long as we follow the law. Now the law has a pattern, and you find the pattern in your language. Weirdly, you find it in the grammar, not just the words. You know, people always look at the things, but you know, you look at the patterns, you look at the systems. In our language systems, you find the rest of our systems. Because the language is the law of the land. It has that in it. And yeah, anytime you find something that doesn't fit, or that's out of that, you know it's the wrong way. And we feel that together anytime when we're not being ngai. For me, in my language, the only way you say, the only time you say ngai is when you got when you want to fight somebody. Like just anybody really. You walk outside and start shouting ngai, and then you got to fight them. But the fight's good because it knocks sense back into you until you become an us again. Yeah. Anyway, there are pedagogies in this that I do want to share with you, but that might be better read than said. Yeah, and so we talk about co-design and co-learning, but this isn't the standard like co-learning that you see, because we're Kriolising this. And that's not just about changing a letter to look cool. So when we talk about co-learning, you know, with that K, this is a power thing for us. It's an agency thing, and it's about Kriolising the world. Now, it only works if you're walking your talk. If you're just doing co-learning that's just normal, like I go back the kids into groups now, and they're going to learn cooperatively, And the teacher's not the centre of the world. He didn't know anything. He didn't know more than the teacher. Like, if you're doing that stuff, that's not our way either. That's just a C. And so you'll be in a C. C word learning. And well, we want to go with K words. We want to Kriolised back. Yeah. Decolonize is like, that's not really important for me. A lot of people want to decolonize like somehow they can separate out. This idea of old ways, new ways. That's rubbish. Like, I know that right now is the time for me to cut bark, because I see the quolls finishing up mating. I see the new growth in the ferns, those soft fronds coming. I see all them things. I see the bower birds doing their thing. I see them flocking. I see different murmurations. I see so many things going on right now that makes me go, yeah, that this is the season for me to cut that bark down here, different from up north. But I cut that bark down here now, because this is when the sun's running, and I won't be able to get the bark off the tree if I wait too long. So I've been cutting those shields, I've been cutting those gullimons. And that's it right there. I'm cutting with a steel axe. People are looking at my steel axe going, well, that's a new way. And I go, no. We had steel for a long time anyway. That's why a lot of people's totem up north is a sword. Tobacco, steel, territory, different things. People got, everything in creation gets categorized and classified in another. There's law and there's song cycles. Four and there's toes or steel. That axe that I use, that's not new way. It's the same way old way, because I'm looking at those seasonal signs and cutting the bark at the right time, and then caring for the tree in the right way. It's old way. I'm following the processes. I'd break that process if I just kept it. If I kept it at home. If I kept it for me. And I went, this is mine. And like I exhibited that to say, hey, look at this fabulous Yunkaporta over here. I should be, you should give me lots of money. People should think that anything that comes out of my mouth is true or good or amazing. It's like, no, it's not. As you can see, like maybe 80% of it's all right. At best. But no. So I'd break that if I kept it for myself. But no, you got to put it out in that economy. And a lot of our economy, it's exchange, but it's not like a bank account where you put something in and then you hope to get a return on that investment and get back the same as principal plus interest, and that's how you accrue wealth. That's not it. We trade to increase relationships. And Australian Customs has been interfering with that since the early 1900s when they stopped that trade with Asia, which kind of messed up our entire continental economy. Everyone felt it down here. Because Asia was the Silk Road stopped, a lot of the rest of it stopped as well, especially that trade baler shells that used to come down this way, and pearl shells. There's lots of lines of trade. These got busted up. But we still had, there was like a dog skin treaty we had with Aotearoa. We used to trade dog hair for them because we didn't really want it, but they did. And we still got things going. And we have embassy, with Turtle Island. I've had this whale bone that I had to do something with over a 10-year period, which I didn't do quick enough. I just let that sit, and that's what took out my L1 vertebra, which is why I'm now crippled. But I finally did finish up that ceremony and cut that one up and making lots of sculptures that go into that trade economy. I did make one for Estrella Bay. I did make one for Nair. And I was telling you, like as soon as I got here, I had something for you carving out a whale one. But I took it out at the airport and I was polishing up. And there was some like girls sitting next to me that were watching me, like they're kind of mad looking about it. Next minute, it says there's a flight, the flight's been delayed, and then, like indefinitely. And then I see there's all this like fellas, full kit, bomb squad, jackets, guns, everything, they're standing at the desk. And after a while, they come over and got me and took me out over there and finished up the whole flight. Got delayed for like half hour, 45 minutes while they would search through all my stuff. And finally, they decided, oh, he's not doing anything wrong, but this really troubles us. This bum, you can't like just be polishing a bum in an airport, bros. And so they took that. So that's somewhere doing its thing. And like you might think, oh, that's terrible. But that makes me really happy because I know that is there in that international, airport and customs and security and border policy and border police, and the whole concept of terrorist responses and fear of the other from overseas. That's there in the center of that, Kriolising those bastards right now. So I feel happy about that, and we should feel happy about that. Anyway, so we all have these things. We know. When we go in to see, we take our totems with us. We know our entities. On the northern hemisphere, we know that there's some constellations there. We know that we can take Seven Sisters story up there, and we know that we'll find the same one there on Turtle Island. They call them Seven Sisters too, We know we can connect. We know we can connect through the whales because the same whales go there. And that bone, I don't know if it's here in my room. No, it's in my room. Another big bit of that bone there. That's been up there, and I've been in ceremony there, Turtle Island. So Turtle and Moose clans look after me there. That travels with me. When I go to his country, I look for those clans because they're the ones who look after me. Give you somewhere to sleep. We have the same economy. We have the same governance system. It's how I've done the work that I've done over the years. I got that Connect Murwari mob. I got some ochre from Gaduga here too. I meant to pass on to you guys. We've got that. We've got those connects here. Through all these people, bundle and mob. So many, pretty much everyone here. I want to finish with a special thanks to Aotearoa, Ufla. Thank you so much for. My brother passed away February badly, and his it was a particular kind of death where they sent his remains to like a specialist for a forensic lab in Aotearoa, and so there's lots of mobs over there right now. But since February, the coroner just released the remains the other day, so next week I'm flying back home up north for funeral. And that's been hard since February, but there's your countrymen have been looking after him while he's been there, and doing lots of work on my behalf. So I want to say thank you for that for us. That's it. Anyway, lots of connects here, and these just keep going. And by the time I leave, I should be finishing up introducing myself and hearing everyone else's introductions. But that feeds around. Anyway, basically things can scale. And there are ways I can pass on our conference paper to you, which is a book chapter that came out in Turtle recently on the co-learning thing. And there will be more sort of explanations in there of how we can start building that in classrooms, but just in our lives anyway, to sort of realign all these signaling systems at different inflection points, like education, finance, and stuff like that. So that's me done for now.
Any questions?
I don't know if there's questions for Philip.
This time? That's why I gave you the bar.
I was going to do another beat there, brother.
Yeah.
I reckon, What do you reckon? Finish on those. Thank you very much too for sharing it. And I was just looking at your design. Sorry, I was looking at the kids there, but looking at your designs, and it looks like a sort of like an Eden nest, like an Eden dreaming for a kid. Different nests and different countries, and how an Indian walks all over the country and provides in that country. The male looks after the incubates and eggs, and then also
Yeah.
And then like a little navy, and then he looks around, or he or she, sorry, he protects the young, so do that three, and then we've got 8 cut out.
Okay.
Is that all right, everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just I like the concept of put it all together. All right, ready? So 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, and then an 8 cut to finish it off. Ready? Go.
I took back in steals all our robbers. Eggs, long time ago, we left us with nothing still today, but that's okay. It's all right, I don't mind seeing you look yourself. That trauma, oh. Anybody ever notice how like our private reading stories are always just like never have a happy ending? Like they're always really crappy. Like just everybody. Yeah. I like that.
Any other questions?
I might make a couple of comments about Tyson. I'd say thank you for an excellent presentation, because you met us where we needed to be met. I appreciate that. The drawing it all back to a single pronoun is such an exceptionally sensible thing for our people to begin to start to think about the world around us. I think for too long we've overcomplicated the piece, and I appreciate your position about the notion of decolonising versus let's just create the shit out of it. I concur. I'm with you. It's a fantastic thing. I'm just going to read you. So thanks very much. I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate what you shared with us today.
Going along with that idea of Kriolising, Ernie Dingo and Kate Blanchett did a series here called Bridges, I believe. And there was one episode where he brought her up to meet his family, and she was all uncomfortable and everything. And at the end of the scene, they're sitting out on a little hill, and they're talking about the Aboriginal protection movement and all that stuff. And Ernie, and I'm sure it was off scripted, and he goes to Kate Blanchett and he says, "Oh no, you got it wrong. We're trying to breed out you fellas." All right.
Kate Blanchett's the whitest woman in Australia.
Yeah. All right, so if that's it, you have a break, and let's get back here in about 15, a little extra 5 minutes there, 20-minute break.